Good morning. So I was out of town last week. I didn't get a chance to hop on here very much and talk. So I wanted to make sure that I was on here this morning since all my kids are at school, all two of them, and take a few minutes to talk about vulnerability and your book. So, everybody has been hearing this. It's kind of a buzzword now. And a couple of years ago, when I first started hearing it, and I was thinking about how this relates to writing a book, I was thinking more along the lines of like somebody's got some deep, dark secret that they need to share or that they don't want to share. And this is what makes it such a challenge to write a book, if you're sharing some deep, dark secret. But the truth is, maybe holding my phone wasn't a great idea. The truth is that vulnerability isn't just the deep dark secret. It is being your authentic self. It is being open to saying, hey, this is what I believe and I'm going to stand on that. As we were saying at our retreat last week, I'm going to put my stake down here and I'm going to own this. It's what you're willing to stand behind. It's knowing that, hey, this might not be popular, or some people are going to agree with me, but this is my heart, this is my soul, this is my truth, right? So I've been reading Daring Greatly by Brene Brown, and she actually talks about vulnerability, and she talks about it in there as well as on her Netflix special that I watched. And that was the first I had actually been exposed to her, was on her special. And she talks a little about vulnerability and how, if you don't have that, you don't have a safe place to be vulnerable, to be yourself, then you're basically saying, creativity doesn't matter. I don't have a safe place to be creative. I don't have a safe place to express myself, express my feelings, my hopes, desires, my truth, all of that kind of stuff. And that's really, something that's important when you're doing your book. You have to be vulnerable to be able to write your book. That creativity isn't going to come. You're not going to get into the writing flow, and you're not going to be able to connect with the people that you want to connect with if you're not willing to be open and vulnerable when you're doing your book, right? So when you do sit down and you start feeling like, I'm going to be really vulnerable if I share this, even if it's something that isn't that, outlandish or scary or shameful, even if it's none of that stuff, if it's just you being you, sometimes just the act of writing, because it is such a vulnerable act. I know for me, it's directly like brain to pen, or, brain to keyboard. I don't usually use a pen. But that act in itself is very vulnerable. Most of my stuff is basically in flow, just as it's coming out, this is what it is. And I just hit send. I just put it in. I don't censor myself when I'm doing this stuff. Now, every once in a while, I'll take out the F word if that happens to pop out, because I do keep my stuff clean. But when you sit down and you want to be in that flow, sometimes that vulnerability block is a very big block. So how do we get over that? What's a way that you can sit down and get comfortable with yourself enough that it's coming through in your writing? There are lots of different ways you can do it. One way is to, just sit down and be with yourself. Sit down and do something else creative. Just that act of expression without judgment, that creativity without judgment, where you just sit down and you're like, I'm just going to play the piano if that's something you enjoy. I'm just going to dance and have fun. Like, nobody's here watching me. I'll close the curtains, I'll crank up the volume, and I'm going to dance. Sometimes you need some sort of an act that is truly vulnerable to nobody, and that lets you open up and be yourself. This is why you'll hear a lot of people, and I know back in the beginning when I was doing this and I was saying, creativity begets creativity, I didn't really connect those pieces there. I thought, okay, if you start being creative and you feel comfortable, then you'll be able to be creative in another medium easier. I've seen it happen myself. I sew something, I'll feel better writing. because I've gotten into that flow where it doesn't matter what the sewing project turns out as, or it doesn't matter what the dance is, or it doesn't matter that I screwed up when I was playing the piano. And then I'll go in and write because you're in that space. And later, over years, as I've been doing a lot of, self-development, reading a lot of stuff, learning about myself, that's when I've finally come to realize what it is. It's because you're free to be open and you've gotten to the point where you can be vulnerable. Now, that doesn't mean it's not going to be scary, right? You sit down, you write up your story, you're writing your book, you're writing about your program, you're writing about clients you've worked with, all of that stuff. Yeah, that's still going to be scary, but sometimes you have to lean into that scary piece so you can get to the part, the creamy nougat, right? The center of it all, the soul, the part that you really need to expose to everybody. And that's where you really shine. That's where you're giving yourself permission to shine and you're letting everybody see inside of you. And that's where it's really going to connect. That's where it's going to start helping people. And that's where your book is going to be a super vital tool for your business, because you'll know, hey, this was a little scary to get out, but now I have it and I can share this with everybody. And one of my clients who I worked with this year, she tells me that all the time that she's had people reach out and say, wow, you were very raw, you were very real. This is exactly what I needed to hear because this is what I'm going through too. And when you're able to connect with people on that level, that's that know, like, and trust factor. So I want to encourage you to open up yourself and be ready to just be vulnerable and express your deepest truth, because that's where you're going to connect. And that's where the true gold is, right? When you're getting that connection and people are able to see, hey, she gets me. She understands what my problem is, and she's going to help me with the solution to it. So just a few thoughts this morning. I know we have a lot of new people in the group, and I'm going to welcome them later this week too and give them a chance to jump on. And I have a fantastic freebie that I wanted to share too. So I'll be sharing that in the group this week. So I hope everybody has a great day. And if you have questions or comments, or you want to woohoo for being vulnerable and writing your book, just drop it below the video.